to Jerusalem, our home city. I just want to start by saying it's an honor, a zchut, a kavod, to be giving you this tour today, to being a shaliach tzibur, a messenger for the community on Zoom, virtually in this beautiful city of ours, Jerusalem. It really is a zchut. I want to give just a heads up before I start. I'm not a licensed tour guide. I've been living in Jerusalem for almost 15 years, but I'm not a licensed tour guide. So most of this tour is not going to be full of historical facts and dates. And if there are dates and facts, feel free to fact check. They probably are wrong. I'm just not a historian. So what I do have is I have a couple of my good friends and my father here joining us today. Lior, he just moved from Germany to Jerusalem. He's now in school. His father, David Mendelson, Professor David Mendelson, and my father, Jay Lieberman. And they're also going to be kind of helping me on the tour. Lior just had his bar mitzvah. He was my student. We had a wonderful bar mitzvah. And one of the things that we try to do is walk the streets of Jerusalem as much as we can. So we're going to start. I'm going to start by obviously pointing out that the Liberty Bell from Philadelphia is behind me. Go Rabbi Josh in Philly, right? So this is obviously a clear connection to where I grew up. I thought it'd be a great place to really start our tour. We're in Gana Pa'amon, Liberty Park, and I'll show you another angle. This is Liberty Park. It's one of my favorite places. In a minute, we're going to go to my favorite place in Jerusalem besides the Old City. And on the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia, there's a pasuk, a sentence that's written on the Liberty Bell, and it says "Ukratem dro ba'aretz v'kol yoshvea." It's from from last week's parsha, and it's basically you shall be here. It says up here, proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants. So I thought that's a really good place to start on Yom Yerushalayim, Jerusalem Day. Throughout this tour, you're going to get a little bit of a feel of what Jerusalem Day is like towards the end when you start to see people pouring in to the Old City. We're going to start our walking. I'm going to change the view and basically explain some things and also sing a nigun. One sec. If you get dizzy, let me know. So there's the dragon, the famous dragon of Gana Pa'amon. As a child, I remember coming here. I spent a year in Jerusalem when I was in kindergarten, and this was a place that we loved to come to and play on the dragon. So as we walk through the park, just giving you a little bit of a intro to our tour, we're going to be making our way an aliyah up to the Old City. We're going to be ascending up to the Old City throughout this tour. And then we're going to get to the Old City, and we're going to ascend to the Kotel, and we're going to see the Temple Mount as we make our way. And what I want you to do is, if you're inspired by anything you see or any song you hear or any bird that flies by or any flower you see in the corner of the screen that inspires you, hold on to that. And when we get to the lookout over the Kotel, I want you to hold that thought. And I'm going to be, like I said, your shaliach tzibur virtually, and you will say your prayer as we overlook the Kotel at the end of this tour. So please find inspiration as we go. If at any point I lose you, which is very possible, Debbie has instructions of links that will be shown to keep you all satisfied spiritually. So this is like a spiritual tour of Jerusalem, of my Jerusalem. So the first place I'm taking you to is an amphitheater. And this is my favorite place. It's a hidden amphitheater in Jerusalem. You can raise your hand if you can see me and hear me. Great. This is an amphitheater this is my favorite place in Jerusalem. It's rarely used, not very well known. This is the Inbal Hotel. And this is a place that I find the most inspiration, and I do most of my work and my spiritual work here. And this is where, if I'm ever walking by this place, I sing. I warm up my voice and I sing. And I thought this would be the perfect place to start our tour with a song. We'll start with a nigun, and then we'll do a song. The nigun goes like this. I die, 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 die. I nine, 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 nine. I nine, 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 nine. I nine, 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 nine. I nine, 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 nine. Da 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 nine, nine, I nine, 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 nine. I nine, 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 I nine, 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 nine. I nine, 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 nine. I nine, 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 nine. And we're going to end the nigun without finishing it because we're going to bring it to a close before we get to the kotel. We're going to finish that nigun at the end of this tour. So today is Yom Yerushalayim. It's Jerusalem Day. For mostly everyone that I know, it's a happy celebratory day. 53 years ago, during the Six-Day War, Jerusalem was a split city. Before the Six-Day War, Jerusalem was a split city between Jordan and Israel. And during the Six-Day War, Israel, as we say, liberated Jerusalem and brought Jerusalem together as one under the Israeli flag. It's a complicated day here in Jerusalem. I'm here to give you my Jerusalem, and my Jerusalem is not necessarily all happy. It is a complicated day. We have our neighbors, our brothers and sisters who actually mourn on Jerusalem Day because for them it was the loss of their city. For me, it's a celebratory day, and it's a complicated city. And throughout this tour, we're going to see some of the complications and some of the different aspects and angles of the city. But because it is Jerusalem Day, I want to share with you a song that we all know. Debbie, do you have the PDF? We're gonna throughout this tour, you can take a look or either on the chat or
they don't have it.
So we're gonna put up in the chat the words of the songs that we'll be doing. We're gonna start with Naomi Shemer's Yerushalayim Shel Zahav. And the first verse of Jerusalem of Gold, that's what Yerushalayim Shel Zahav means, is the mountain air is clear as wine, and the scent of pines is carried on the breeze of twilight with the sound of bells. And in the slumber of tree and stone captured in her dream, the city that sits solitary in its midst is a wall. Jerusalem of gold and copper and of light, behold, I am a violin for all of your songs. And I'm going to start with the first verse and the last verse. The first verse is what I just read, and the last verse is about returning to the wells and returning to the shuk and hearing the shofar blast on the Temple Mount. So it goes like this. אוויר הרים צלול כיין וריח אורנים נישא ברוח הרביים עם כל פעמונים ובתרדמת אילן ואבן שבויה וחלומה העיר אשר בדד יושבת ובליבה חומה ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושלו הלא לכל שירייך אני קינו ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושלו הלא לכל שירייך אני קינו. And there goes a piece of paper. ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושלו הלא לכל שירייך אני קינו ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושלו, הלא להושיעייך אני kihino. So as you see, we're walking now up the stairs of Gana Pa'amon. I'm going to share a little bit about this park. That's my angle and how I see this park. Gana Pa'amon is a park of hope. There's a basketball court that has about eight courts, and every night people get together and play pickup basketball. And I used to play basketball almost every night here, and people could write beautiful poetry about how Arabs, Jews, yeshiva bachim from the Mir Yeshiva, men and women get together and play pickup basketball without any problems, without any fighting, just for the love of a game. And I find that inspirational about this park, Gana Pa'amon. So now we're going to see behind us from where we came and where we're going. And you can see in the flowers over there, Yerushalayim. And the sun is rising from Jordan. It always rises in the east, and the east is the country Jordan. So we have come to a place called Keren HaYisod. This is a street that's unfortunately a street for me of almost of depth and of sadness. This street, every year, we march up this street, we parade up this street during the LGBTQ parade. And in the Jerusalem community, it's not a huge community. So it's very important that everyone who supports freedom and democracy and people's rights to be who they are comes out and joins them. And only a couple years ago, there was a terrorist attack. A so-called religious Jew stabbed a young girl, a teenage girl, during the parade called Shira Banki. And literally, it's right up the street over here. Only across there is the memorial. And that is one memory of Keren HaYisod that I'll never forget, and I'll never be able to part with when I'm at this road. And the other memory that I can't part with is of my friend Chaim Tikachinsky. Chaim Tikachinsky died 2 years ago during Sukkot when I was in Tiferet, Israel. He was a wonderful conductor, pianist, friend. He was a devout, observant, religious Orthodox Jew who believed in the power of music, so much so that although he had long payas and wore a black velvet kippah, he would play in churches because music to him was the language of heaven. And that, unfortunately, he was killed in a hit and run on Keren HaYisod. I did, yeah. We're going to continue now. We're crossing the street. We're going to wait for it to turn green because Dina Machuta Dina, the law of the land holds. So over there is King David Street. We'll be returning to King David Street soon. And as you can see, the streets are fairly empty, even for a Friday morning, which is a day off. It's like Sunday here. This is empty because I guess the virus, people are just not coming out as much. It is still 6 o'clock in the morning, but usually the streets would be full with tourist buses and tons of people going back and forth through these streets. As you can see, we have like 2 or 3 cars. It's pretty empty. So now we're heading into Yamin Moshe, and as you can see in the distance, there's a famous landmark, the famous windmill. Can you see it yet? Maybe if I go like this. Anyways, you'll see it in a minute. I'll tell you a little bit about Yamin Moshe. Yamin Moshe was the first settlement that was built outside of the old city. And it's called Yamin Moshe because the person who donated most of the money and who basically built Yamin Moshe was Moshe Montefiore, who has a strong presence in this city. And to me, this part of town, although it looks old and kind of looks like Tuscany a little bit in Italy, it represents the New Jerusalem. the New Jerusalem. The Old Jerusalem is the old city walls that for a very long time people were told not to build outside the walls. Maybe a couple hundred years ago, it was because of you didn't want to live outside the walls because of attacking armies, but also because of spirituality. You wanted to live within the walls. And here, in the late 1800s, Yamin Moshe was built to provide sanitary living and a new settlement for the Jewish people outside the old city. So here we get to the windmill. And what did Moshe Montefiore do? Moshe Montefiore was a very wealthy Jewish person who lived in London. What did he do? He built a windmill. And the idea of the windmill is based on the concept that tzedakah, the greatest level of tzedakah, isn't giving somebody money. It's teaching them a profession, giving the people a way to live without having to take money all the time. So he built this windmill to provide energy for the people who lived here. And as you can see, we have Montefiore's carriage. And now we're going to sing a song about Moshe Montefiore. That's one of my favorite songs. Okay, it's called "V'kol hakavod lasar." And the first verse, I'm going to translate the first verse as I take you on a tour of Yamin Moshe. It goes like this: "Ukshehaya hasar Montefiore ben shmonim." When Sir Montefiore, because he was knighted by the Queen, turned 80 years old, the angels came to him in white. As bo leveito hamelachim halevanim, amdu al mitato v'chachamu elav. They stood at his bedside and said to him, "Hakadosh Baruch Hu rotze otcha elav." God wants to call you to heaven. It's time for you to part with the world. V'chach ana hasar Montefiore b'diuk. And Montefiore said in return, "Salchu li rabotai, ach be'emet ani asuk." I'm very busy. There's pogroms happening all over the world to the Jews, and I have to help them. Okay? So we're going to skip all of the other verses and go to the end. The last verse goes like this: when Sir Montefiore was 101 years old, the angels kissed him his last kiss. And he closed his eyes with their request. But just a Jerusalem stone was placed under his head. And just so we can point out, Jerusalem stone is always this white stone, right? And it actually reflects the sun in a gold way. That's why a lot of people say Jerusalem of gold. Atof talit, they wrapped him in a talit and put him in his casket. And it was his last journey. But there's people still in this neighborhood that swear that sometimes in the evening, when the darkness is around, they will see Montefiore still standing by his Merkava, his carriage. So it's a kind of a spiritual kind of ghost story that if you're lucky and you come here at night, which a lot of people do, it's very romantic actually, you might find Moshe Montefiore standing by his carriage. So the song goes like this. It's one of my favorite songs in the world. וכשהיה הסר מונטיפיורי בן 80, אז בואו לביתו המלכים הלבנים, עמדו על מיטתו וחכמו אליו, הקדוש ברוך הוא רוצה אותך אליו. וכך ענה הסר מונטיפיורי בדיוק, סלחו לי רבותיי, אך באמת אני עסוק, כי יש הרבה צרות לאחינו בעולם, הנה פוגרום ברוסיה, איך לא אבוא אצלם, כי מי לא אני, יעזור פה לכולם. והוא עלה על המרכבה, ודיו לסוסים אמר, ופה מתן בסתר, ושם נדבה, פה צפיתה בלחי או ליטוף של אהבה, לכל היהודים שמחה וגאווה, וכל הכבוד לשר, וכל הכבוד לשר. וכשהשר בן 100 ועוד שנה, ישכחו המלכים בנשיקה האחרונה, וחק את העיניים עצם הוא בבקשו, רק אבן ירושלמית מתחת לראשו. עטוף טלית של מושי ונח בתוך ארון, גמר עשה משה את מסעו האחרון. אך יש עוד אנשים המוכנים להישבע, שלפעמים בלילה כשחושך בסביבה, ראו את מטיפיורי על המרכבה, the carriage, והוא עלה על המרכבה, ודיו הסוסים אמר, ופה מתן בסתר, ושם נדבה, וצפות איתה בלחי או ליטוב של אהבה, לכל היהודים שמחה וגאווה, וכל הכבוד לשר, וכל הכבוד לשר. בוקר טוב ירושלים! Sorry, had to do that. Okay, as we are here, and we're going to continue our tour, and by the way, if this tour goes over an hour, I apologize. There's just not enough time to show Jerusalem. So feel free to sign off or stay on. At the end, we will get to the Kotel. I want to show something very special, important, and hard to swallow. I don't know if you can see, but in the distance, this is the valley of Jahannam, this valley right here. This old city is just below the sun. You can't see it so well right now. You can see the Migdal David right there. That's David's citadel, which we'll talk about later. But here we have a view of the valley of Jahannam going into the West Bank and Jordan in the background. And something I really want to point out is, if you look very carefully, I don't know if you can see it because I can't see it in my small screen, but you can see the complexity of the situation that we are in. During the 6-day war, Israel beat the Jordanians and the surrounding armies and took over the land of Israel, took over the West Bank, and clearly, and we've been and Israel's been in the West Bank ever since. And obviously, there's different opinions of what that's about. If it's an occupation, if we should be settling. I mean, everyone has their own opinions. I'm not going to give you my opinion, but you can see over there. There's the wall. And this is called depends on how you look at it, the separation fence, the occupation wall, or the apartheid wall. Depending on your politics, you have a different name for it. And it separates East Jerusalem to other parts of the West Bank. You can see if you can see, I don't know if you can, but the town is built right up to the wall. And this is a reminder to us that every time you come and you see this view, that there is complexity here, that there's something that we have to deal with, that we're not yet at our final place. We need to bring peace to this world. We have to figure out a way to do that. So I wanted to point that out as we continue our tour. We can't escape from our past. We can't escape from the problems that are before us. We just have to try to do our best to figure out ways to make peace and harmony. So I'm going to continue. Sir David, do you want to share something about, Islamic Jerusalem or Al-Quds, or do you want to share anything about maybe even Ramadan? Today's Ramadan in the Islamic faith. Would you like to share?
Sure. But can you just give me a moment?
Yes, absolutely. So we'll actually come back to you. So we're going to continue our tour now. We're going to be going back up to Yamin Moshe, the windmill. Also, Lior, if you're up for it, you're not shy, if you want to share something about what it's like to be a young man in the city of Jerusalem. But we'll get there, maybe when we get to the old city. So you see the buildings look old, kind of Italian-esque, and but this was the new settlement in the 1800s. Before this, there was no settlements outside of the Jerusalem of the old city. So now we're going to continue up this path. And as we continue up this path, I'm going to share some stories about where we're going now. We're heading now to King David Street. King David Street is a famous street. You can see on Jerusalem Day, people also, because it's almost Shabbat, but on Yom Yerushalayim, everyone wears white. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm wearing my Tefereth Israel t-shirt. On Yom Yerushalayim, it's like a holiday here, and everyone wears white, and that is to show that it's a holiday. Here we go. We're turning us around, and we're continuing. So now we're going to King David Street. King David Street's famous for hotels, for tourism. Some of the great hotels are here, like the King David Hotel, the Citadel Hotel. Where we're heading now is a hotel guest house called the Ymca, where I do a lot of my singing and my performance work. As you can see, the gardens are very beautiful here. It's kind of like San Diego a little bit, as you know. So King David Street is the street of tourism, also of the new, the King David Hotel is famous. The Palmach blew it up, or part of it up, before the creation of the state, and killed many British soldiers and British people in that bomb. And you can see we're heading up. So because we're on King David Street, we're going to sing a song like this, and you probably know it. David Melech Yisrael, Chai Chai V'Kayam. 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 David Melech, Melech Yisrael. David Melech, Melech Yisrael. David Melech, Melech Yisrael. Melech Yisrael, Chai V'Kayam. Ayay, Siman, Siman Tov. Ayay, you can see cats. Mazel, Mazel Tov. Ayay lanu v'cho Yisrael. Amen. Ayay, Siman, Siman Tov. Oy, Mazel, Mazel Tov. Yehi lanu lecho Yisrael. Chai v'Kayam. Speaking of David, something that King David brought to the city when he built the city originally is this idea of music and poetry. And this is a theme that you'll see in the city. A lot of artists, a lot of musicians. It's inspiring. It's a place of inspiration, a place that is a magnet to people that want to be creative. Hence why, one of the reasons why I live here. It's hard for me to think of living anywhere else, as someone who believes in my voice and thinks that's my way of expressing my soul and what I want to say in this world. I think I get so much food for my soul here in Jerusalem. It feeds me every day I walk through the streets. I will say that living here for the past almost 15 years, there's not a day that goes by that I don't thank Hashem for the zchut, for the privilege, or for the just to be able to live in the city. The city is something we pray about every day. In almost all of our prayers, we mention Yerushalayim, Jerusalem. And for thousands of years, it was not possible to even come here, let alone live here as a Jew. And here I am. I'm raising my family here in Jerusalem, and I feel like I'm doing my ancestors like a big, like they're all cheering me on, saying, "Good job, you're able to live there." And for me, it's very special. And as you see, we're approaching a very weird building called the Ymca. The Ymca is, like I said, has a very special place in my heart. There's the Ymca. Here's the King David Hotel. This is actually the side of the hotel that was blown up by the Palmach. It's obviously rebuilt. And by the way, this hotel is where all of the presidents stay, and the vice presidents, and all of the important people who come to Jerusalem stay in the King David Hotel. So about once a month, this street's blocked off for, I don't know, Putin or Trump or whichever whichever leader is in town. So here's the YMCA. And the reason why I brought you here today is because I want to point out, the beautiful, I don't know if you can see it because the light isn't great, but I can show you that this is a beautiful building that was designed by the same architect as the Empire State Building. Now, not only was it designed by the architect of the Empire State Building, but the work that goes inside of this building is even more beautiful than what you see on the outside. This is the home of so much coexistence work in this city. Ariel and I have already decided that when Leo's old enough to go to GAN, there's a coexistence GAN here where Muslims, Jews, Christians study together at a young age to obviously bring peace. There's a lot of activities in this building, like Kids for Peace. I don't know if the Jerusalem Youth Choir is based here, but it's the type of place that would home a choir like the Jerusalem Youth Choir. And over there is the hall where I sing opera in. It's a beautiful hall, seats about 600 people. And well, not so recently, but about every month I sing a different opera there. And this is like my stomping grounds, the YMCA, the King David Hotel. And we're going to continue. I think I lost my family, so typical. We'll keep going. Does anyone have any questions? You can type, and then maybe Debbie, you can ask me because it's hard to see any messages. You want me to turn? Okay, good. Okay, that's a good. Here we go. One sec. This is probably giving you guys all headaches, but it is. Okay, here we go. And we're walking. Again, if you have any questions, or keep in mind that we're great memories of our trip to Israel. So it's hard for me to read your messages. So if there's a question, then someone can Debbie, you can read it to me, or I lost my family. Great, good. And we're continuing. So here's, again, I said, like, it's a very touristy street. There's a lot of art. Unfortunately, it's very empty now. This is supposed to be a model of Leonard Bernstein. I don't know what you think of that, but I find it, A, very scary, and B, could have done a better job. But that's my opinion. I'm not supposed to give political opinions. So we're continuing walking, and while we're walking to the next spot, I think we should sing a song. And as I said, we're going to continue singing. We're going to continue singing songs about Jerusalem. And here we go. Mehera, mehera, Hashem Elokeinu. Mehera, mehera, Hashem Elokeinu. Mehera, mehera, Hashem Elokeinu. Mehera, mehera, Hashem Elokeinu. Od yishama be'ar Yehuda, ubechutzot Yerushalayim, kol satzon v'kol simcha, kol chatan v'kol kala. Mehera, mehera, Hashem Elokeinu. Mehera, mehera, Hashem Elokeinu. Mehera, mehera, Hashem Elokeinu. Mehera, mehera, Hashem Elokeinu. Hayod yishama v'yarei Yehuda, uvechutzot Yerushalayim, kol sason v'kol simcha, kol chatan v'kol kala. Mehera, mehera, Hashem Elokeinu. Mehera, mehera, Hashem Elokeinu. Mehera, mehera, Hashem Elokeinu. Mehera, mehera, Hashem Elokeinu. Hayod yishama v'yarei Yehuda, ובחוצות ירושלים. And here we're coming to, look, you can see people have their flags on their cars waving. Here is the Hebrew Union College. So if you're studying here to be a cantor rabbi in the Reform movement, you might come to the Hebrew Union College and study this beautiful building that's just unbelievably beautiful. I have a lot of friends that are either studying or teaching in this beautiful building up here. So we're getting to a very special place that I want to talk a little bit about. There are many aspects of Jerusalem. We talked a little bit about Jerusalem of gold, Jerusalem of complexities. To me, Jerusalem is romantic. It's inspirational, but it's romantic. And anyone who says differently, although there was probably more blood spilt over this city than any city in the world, I find it's the city of love. It's not by chance that every Jewish wedding one goes to, you hear the verse, Im eshkachech Yerushalayim tishkach yemini. If I forget thee, Jerusalem, may I forget my right hand. It's not by chance we say that. Now, obviously, during wedding ceremonies, we say Im eshkachech Yerushalayim tishkach yemini to remember the destruction, even in the happiest of times, remember the destruction of Jerusalem. But I think there's more meaning behind it. I think we need to turn Jerusalem into the Jerusalem of love, Jerusalem of peace and love. And we're about to get to a place that means so much to me. It's a place called Beit Shmuel. I'm going to turn my camera around. We're heading towards the old city via Beit Shmuel. This is a corridor that I pass by a lot. It's another theater that I sing at. I sing at the Ymca, and Beit Shmuel also has a beautiful theater that I sing at almost every twice a year. It's where the most important thing that happened at Beit Shmuel, it's where I got engaged to Ariel. The story goes that I told Ariel that we were having a donor meeting with my father for his work, and he wanted us to come and get dressed up. And she arrived dressed up nicely, and there were candles, and we were on a balcony overlooking the old city. And I thought it was very important that I established that my relationship with Ariel is founded and based in Jerusalem, overlooking the old city. So basically, as we were sitting and I sang a song to Ariel, I said to her, look down below. There seems to be a rally of some sort. And I organized a bunch of kids to hold up signs. Ariel, will you marry me? And when she turned back to look at me, I was on my knee and I popped the question. So that being said, I want to sing a song that I love. It's called Im eshkachech Yerushalayim. You probably heard the words before. What? So the song is Im eshkachech Yerushalayim. The version is from Lev Tahor, and for me it's very romantic. And I want to remind you of the romance of this city. Im eshkachech Yerushalayim ay tishkach yemini tidbak leshonchi elechi ki im lo eskerechi im lo et Yerushalayim arosh simchati im lo yale et Yerushalayim arosh simchati. And the verse is, Im lo ya'aleh et Yerushalayim. If you don't bring Jerusalem up, or if you bring Jerusalem up, arosh simchati, you will be a happy person. And I again say, bring Jerusalem up to a place of love. Now I'm going to turn the camera around and show you really something interesting and sad. You see it says Chicago? The last show that was supposed to be on was Chicago. The local theater group was doing the musical Chicago. And unfortunately, you can see the dates, the 5th of March to the 21st of March. And clearly that was shut down. They had one night of show and then it was shut down. So it reminds us that we're not in the easiest of times, but I'm sure we will get back to singing and doing musicals. Would you like to talk about a little bit about something? This is, okay, so another important part of this place is my father works with David. They both work for, I'm gonna do a little bit of plugging now. They work for a program called Kivunim. It is definitely the best program, gap year program in the world. They travel all over the world, to India, to Morocco. They're a beautiful program, and their offices are in this building as well. So
Reform Center. It's the world.
I'm not sure if they hear you, but can you hear my father when he talks?
No.
Okay, so we're gonna continue. We're gonna now continue to, David, do you want to say something?
When we get close to the old city, I'll talk about Ramadan.
Ramadan, okay. So now, so according to this was Jordan. This separated West Jerusalem from East Jerusalem. And this is, and according to my father, that is why they gave it to the Reform movement in the 60s. It was worth nothing, and now it's priceless, probably billions of dollars. So as you can see, the artist Moshe Safdie designed the building to represent the old city within ourselves. Within, it sounds beautiful. It's poetic. Oh, so now we're getting closer to the old city. Look at that. There's Migdal David, the old city, the walls, the old city walls, which you should know is, again, I'm not a historian, but these walls were not built by Herod. I mean, most of them weren't. Most of these walls were built only a couple hundred years ago, when the Ottoman Empire ruled this area. And as we get closer, we're going to go up to Jaffa Gate. Now, I know I'm going over time, right? We're going way over time, I think. Well, I don't even know what the time is. I can't see. So I'm going to continue the tour, and you, again, feel free to hang up, go to sleep. Those who want to stay with me.
Hanan, I have a couple comments and questions for you.
Absolutely. Continue, yes.
So one is, it looks relatively empty and quiet. Is this because of coronavirus, or is this what it's typically like outside at this time in the morning where you are?
Okay, so absolutely. It's empty because of coronavirus. By the way, I'm going to be a little political, or a little bit of, give me a little bit of a knock. This neighborhood is Mishkanot Shananim. You can see, in general, this is an empty neighborhood. Why? Because very, very, very wealthy people abroad buy apartments here, but they don't really come here ever. So we've got a whole neighborhood, and this neighborhood specifically is always empty. The great Shimon Peres, President Shimon Peres, lived in this neighborhood. But besides him, he was the only one who ever lived here, I think. Everyone else just comes and visits here. And it's a beautiful neighborhood. It's called Mishkanot Shananim. In general, this neighborhood's empty because the people who own these apartments don't live here. Own a piece of history and come visit our model apartment for like $30 million. But coronavirus there is no tourism. Like San Diego, the city runs on tourism. So in general, at this time of day, you would see thousands of people walking up to the old city to get a view of the old city, of the sun rising above the Temple Mount. I mean, there's clearly coronavirus has affected this place tremendously. You can hear the bells. I don't know if you can hear the bells in the distance, the church bells, but it wasn't by chance that Naomi Shemer said, the bells of the city ring. And before you ask your next question, I just want to point out that to me, the harmony of music of the city can be heard through the bells and the chanting from the mosques and the prayer of our fellow Jewish worshipers. On a Friday evening, my favorite part of Jerusalem is hearing the bells, the mosques, and the Lecha Dodi of our people. It really is so beautiful. I used to, and I'm going to be a little bit open. I used to not like it. I used to think it was, you know, it got in the way of my own thoughts. Why are they playing their, why is the mosque, you know, yelling at me? But as I've lived here for a very long time, I find the beauty in it, in the spirituality. We live in the Middle East where we can't separate ourselves from this land and the history. And I find it very beautiful that I get to hear the muezzin in the mosque for prayer. What were the other questions?
It was just a comment that Moshe Safdie's daughter's an architect in San Diego.
Wow. So I personally don't know much about Moshe Safdie. That was a comment from the crew up here. Here's a beautiful fountain that's not running right now, but in general it runs. This is called Teddy Park, and you can see some beautiful structure.
David can talk about the sculpture.
Yeah, you want to? Okay, so David's gonna say something about the sculpture. I'm gonna give you my headphone. Here, David. Sure. That one, yeah.
Hello. All right. So, hello, everybody. In a few minutes, when we get to the Old City, I'm going to talk to you about the importance of Jerusalem to Muslims and the Ramadan period, which we're in right now. But I want to take this chance to point out this beautiful sculpture by a fellow named Royer. And if you look on the bottom on the floor, there's an exact representation of a medieval map, drawn, I believe, from the 1100s, that represents Jerusalem as the center of the world. And it represents also, if you notice, like a clover leaf, the parts of the world that were known. So you have Africa, Europe, Asia, with Jerusalem as the center. And what I like about this sculpture is that on top, the artist created the rest of the world like an orange peel that fits over the clover leaf. So if you close it, you get a complete globe.
Wow.
So it represents the modern understanding meeting the ancient. So
Thank you, David, for sharing.
And we'll talk in a bit. Here you go.
So I want to point out that David is a true son of the city. What is it? Ibn Medina. His name's David. He's also a warrior. He's a MMA and he's actually a world champion wrestler and jiu-jitsu, right? Medalist. So we're very lucky also to have him with us. He's very Davidic. So here we have in front of us, they're getting ready for Jerusalem Day. We're going to have to walk up this way. So we're walking up to the Old City, and we're making an aliyah. Like I said, we're ascending. So it's getting a little bit louder. We're getting to the Jaffa Gate now. And as we go up, we'll continue to sing songs about Jerusalem to get spiritually ready to get to our holiest place, the Temple Mount. So we're going to continue now to sing a nigun. Nine 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 nine. I nine 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 nine. L'shana haba Yerushalayim habnuya. L'shana haba Yerushalayim habnuya. L'shana haba, l'shana haba, shana haba Yerushalayim, shana haba. Shana haba, l'shana haba, b'Yerushalayim, l'shana haba, b'Yerushalayim habnuya. L'shana haba, b'Yerushalayim habnuya. Ay ay nine 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 nine. Also tonight Shabbos. Ay nine 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 nine. I nine 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 Shabbos Kodesh. I nine nine nine. I nine 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 nine. I nine nine. I nine 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 nine. I nine 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 nine. Ay, nai, nai, nai. Ay, ay, nai, 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 nai. Ay, nai, 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 ay, nai, 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 nai. Oh my goodness. A lot of steps. So we're just getting to Jaffa Gate. I'm going to take you around the real way. This was actually opened up only like in the last 100 years. Debbie, in the PDF that I sent you, there's some pictures of what this looked like 100 years ago. I don't know if you can send that to the group so they can compare what they're saying to.
I will share my screen.
So as you do that, I want to talk to you just a little bit about the tourism industry and a poem that I absolutely love and adore. Yehuda Amichai is probably one of Israel's most famous poet, and he wrote a poem about tourism in this country, and I basically think about it every day I'm here, and I'm sure you can relate in San Diego when you have tourists, how that resonates with you. So here's the poem by Yehuda Amichai. It's called Tourists. Visits of condolence is all we get from them. They squat at the Holocaust Memorial, they put on gray faces at the Wailing Wall, and they laugh behind the heavy curtains in their hotels. They have their pictures taken together with our famous dead at Rachel's tomb and Herzl's tomb, and on the top of Ammunition Hill. They weep over our sweet boys and lust over our tough girls, and hang up their underwear to dry quickly in cool blue bathrooms. Now this is the part that I really love. Once I sat on the steps by a gate at David's Tower. It's exactly where we are right now, David's Tower. I placed my 2 heavy baskets at my side. A group of tourists was standing around their guide, and I became their target marker. You see that man with the baskets? Just right of his head, there's an arch from the Roman period. Just right of his head. But he's moving. I said to myself, redemption will come only if their guide tells them, you see that arch from the Roman period? It's not important. But next to it, left, down and a bit, there sits a man who's bought fruit and vegetables for his family. I very much love that Yehuda Amichai poem. Again, I think you can all relate to it with tourists in San Diego. It's not necessarily just the history of the city that we, it's not just the history of the city, it's really the blood of the city, which is the people who live in it. So as Debbie just showed that last picture, I want to show you exactly that picture was this. Literally that, this angle. That's Migdal David. It is not David's tower. It's a mosque, as you can tell. And I guess people call it Migdal David, but it's not really the Tower of David. David did not sit up there and rule the city from above. David, do you want to share with us? Okay.
Well,
behind you?
Sure, yeah. There you go. So, hello again, everybody, and I'm really glad that Hanan decided to share his adventure with us today, and maybe one day we'll even meet in person. But right now, I'd like to point out that behind us is the Old City. We're about to enter it together, and we're in the 9th month of the Islamic calendar. Just like the Jews, the Muslims have their own calendar. It's based on the moon. And this is the 9th month, the month of Ramadan. And when Muhammad created this religion of Islam, he removed the Islamic calendar as a working calendar and decided it should become a religious calendar. And they stopped giving inserting leap years. So every year, the Islamic calendar changes by 11 days. So Ramadan can be in the summer, it can be in the spring, it can be in the winter, it can be in the fall. It moves by 11 days every single year continuously. This summer it's in the scorching heat, which means that the Muslims who fast for the entire month from the first crescent moon of the month to the last crescent moon, it's a very difficult period for them because they also function. They do regular day-to-day activities. They just fast throughout the entire day for 29 to 30 days. And we're coming towards the end of it, which is marked by the Eid al-Fitr, this one of the few true happy festivities they have, where they celebrate all of our Muslim friends, by the way, say they're jealous of their Jewish friends because we have all of these holidays like Purim and Hanukkah where we celebrate and have a really good time. And they actually, when there's a closer sense of friendship between the two groups, they often like to celebrate with us because of this reason. Their kids really enjoy dressing up for Purim. But so this city is holy to three faiths: the Christians, the Muslims, and the Jews. And there were periods of time before the British Mandate when there was actually friendships between the different types of religions and cultures. And unfortunately, we're in a period of high tension right now. But it is we're entering the city on Jerusalem Day, and you will find that that in previous times, for instance, when Hanan's father Jay would come and celebrate in the 70s, it would be a celebration for the Jewish people, and it still is. Lior, for instance, in the school, if he wasn't hiking with Hanan today, would be celebrating Jerusalem Day with his classmates. And now it's become a bit more nationalistic. So you'll have some groups of more militant groups marching into the Arab neighborhoods, trying to proclaim Jerusalem as just theirs. So it's a shared city. It has a lot of meaning. I would argue, especially and most historically for the Jews, but equally so, I guess, for Christians and for Muslims. And I'll leave it at that for now.
Feel free to share anytime you want. And if you have something to say, please share. We're going to continue now through the Old City as we ascend to the Kotel. And again, it's my hope is that as we do this, we gain inspiration. And when we get to the Kotel, when we get to the overlook of the Kotel, I'll pause and I'll give you time to send a prayer via virtual prayer. I think I think the eternal God would it's very possible and easy for God to hear our prayers from anywhere in the world. And if it inspires us, if we're inspired, then our prayer should be even heard even more. So we're going to go now through the Jaffa Gate, and I'm going to show you the Jaffa Gate because I think it's amazing. Here we have like the archers would shoot arrows out there. I don't know if that's true, but that's what as a kid I thought. And here's the gate of Jaffa, and you can see it's angled so that if an army were to come in, they would hit a wall and they'd have to make a left, so they can't just charge through. So I find that very beautiful. Well, not beautiful. I find that very cool. People are on their way to tefillah, to prayer. Here's someone with his tefillin walking to the kotel probably. And here we go. The streets are empty. I actually have not been to the old city since Corona really hit because we weren't supposed to go. And I can see that I've never, it's sad. I've never seen it this empty in my life. This is really sad actually. Usually there's thousands of people walking here. It's not that early. People would be going to tefillah. People would be going to buy their vegetables down through the shuk over there. There'd be taxis lined up for tourists and there's nobody here. So in a way, it's really sad, but I think we're very lucky that we get to have a tour where I can sing and dance and there's not too many people to make me feel embarrassed. So with that being said, we're gonna go to the next song. It's in the handout. Sorry, 1 second. I'm just gonna put you down for 1 second so I can get the song. Here we go. So the next song is a song that has a lot of meaning because it's kind of like an army song. It feels army. And in 67, as the war was raging during the 6-Day War, the paratroopers and the Shurion, the tanks, were entering the old city through different gates, through the Shal Ariyot, through the Gate of the Lions, through Shal Tzion, through Zion Gate. And as they were coming through, obviously, the battle was raging. And as the last shots deceased stopped, they got to the Temple Mount, and Rabbi Goren, yelled famously, "Hal Habayit biyadenu," the Temple Mount is in our hands, and they blew the shofar. And this song that I'm about to sing is called Lach Yerushalayim, for thee Jerusalem, and the words are like this: for thee Jerusalem, between the city walls, for thee Jerusalem, a new light will shine. In our hearts there exists but one song, for thee Jerusalem, from the Jordan to the sea. So the song goes like this. Here we go. לך ירושלים בין חומות העיר, לך ירושלים אור חדש יאיר, בליבנו רק שיר אחד קיים, לך ירושלים בין ירדן וים. לך ירושלים נוף קדומים והוד, לך ירושלים, לך רזים וסוד, בליבנו רק שיר אחד קיים, לך ירושלים בין ירדן הים. So that song is a song about, it has like that kind of bum, 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 kind of military. You can see like soldiers marching to it. So this is the Armenian Quarter, and the Armenian Quarter, as I'm sure you all know, the old city is separated into 4 sections: the Armenian, the Christian, the Muslim, and the Jewish. This is the Armenian Quarter. Shabbat Shalom. אתה רוצה להגיד איזה ברכה לאיזה קהילה פה בארצות הברית? So that Hashem should send us abundance and happiness. And in the near distance, the temple will be built. And before the temple is built, that we'll all come to Jerusalem and live here. With happiness and love. Yom Tov, good day, Shabbat Shalom. You can see it's a very friendly, there's a lot of, and you can see everyone's wearing white shirts because they're getting ready for the celebrations. It's a very powerful day. Would anyone like to, I did not plan that. No, that's just in general, that's what happens. I don't know if Rabbi Josh is still on the line, but we have a dear friend from high school who came to visit Israel for his first time recently, who's not at all religious, not affiliated to any shul or synagogue, but I took him to the old city on a Shabbat. And as we were walking, sorry, Josh?
Who was it?
Judge Schlossberg.
Ah.
So just picture this. Judge Schlossberg, he comes in with his girlfriend from LA. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll take you on a tour of Jerusalem on a Shabbat. It's beautiful. You get to see the Kotel. I'll take you to the Muslim Quarter. And the first thing that happens is a bunch of Chabadnikim come out of their Chabad home and offer us hard liquor, which of course we drank because it was Shabbos. So I think Judd was very surprised that this was like the Jerusalem. He didn't expect that this was the warmth. People just kind of share things. And here we are. We're going to slowly make our way through the old city. Going through, this is St. James's Street. If there's any questions while I'm doing this, please feel free to ask.
There is a question.
Yes.
Is the shuk completely closed down due to COVID?
No, the shuk was closed down for a couple of weeks. They reopened. Now they have obviously guards outside the shuk, not allowing, only allowing a certain number of people into the shuk. The shuk is open, but not too many people. It's not the same shuk as a lot of us know. So the shuk is open, but it's not very crowded. Again, so much of what brings people to the shuk is the tourist industry. On a Friday, you can't move, but there's no tourists here. So it's only people buying their groceries, all the bars and restaurants. And I don't know if you know this, but the shuk has become really the place for fine dining. And at this point, there's no restaurants open still, or if there are open, they're only doing takeout or delivery. So it's pretty empty. And when I decided to take you on the tour, I had thought about starting in the shuk because it's people's favorite. A lot of people love the shuk, and I do love the shuk a lot too. But it just doesn't have the same feel as it does in a general on a Friday. It doesn't feel the same. And just like when we walked through Jaffa Gate and we saw that it was empty, I knew that it would be empty in the shuk. I didn't expect in Jaffa Gate for it to be empty. I thought our Muslim brothers and sisters would be coming to pray, and the Christians would be coming to pray. But it seems like nobody's really going out. So I want to tell you a little bit about some. I want to tell you a story about this, the old city of Jerusalem, the Temple Mount. And as we get closer, as you can see, we're kind of getting closer. It's a little, there's peaceful. The birds are
Here's a couple
almost
more
like,
questions. Come on.
yeah. Oh yeah,
One.
please, yes.
One, is marzipan still open?
I don't know. I'm sure it is. But
And the next one is, are masks supposed to be worn when you're walking around?
Actually, we just had a heat wave, and because of the heat wave, the government lawfully said you don't have to wear masks. I don't really know what that means. In general, I wear a mask, even during this heat wave, but for the last couple of days, the government said we don't have to wear masks. I don't know. It almost feels like here, and I don't want to jinx it, but it seems to be like we're getting to the summer where maybe there's going to be I don't know. I'm not a scientist or anything, but it feels like there's going to be a little bit of a calm with this coronavirus for a little bit. So as you can see, people aren't wearing masks, and in general, a week ago they were. This says, but the lion is the symbol of Jerusalem. The lion, as you can see on the thing, and it says, "Ohavim et Yerushalayim nikiya." We love a clean city. Ahlan wa sahlan, sabach al khair. So now we're walking through, and we're getting to the Rova HaYehudi, the Jewish quarter. Leo, do you want to share something about being a kid in the city? Okay. So here, this was during the Roman times. This was a market. Possibly, if you were bringing a sacrifice, or if you were coming from afar, you would come here instead of schlepping your goat from the north. You would buy your goat in this market down here and bring it up to the Temple Mount to be sacrificed. You can see the Roman columns.
I would have brought my own goat and saved money.
And so David said he would have brought his own goat and saved money. My father said he would never have sacrificed because he's a vegetarian. And that would be what would be the point of that. As you know, we're getting to Shavuot, the holiday of Shavuot, which is one of the Shalosh Regalim. Shalosh Regalim are the 3 days, 3 legs. Shalosh Regalim is 3 foot festivals. And on those days, it's Sukkot, Pesach, and Shavuot. From all over the country of Israel during the time of the temple, people would pilgrim to Jerusalem and bring their sacrifices to the Temple Mount. And it's a Bikurim. And in a way, we're doing that right now. We're coming up to the temple. We're coming up to Temple Mount. We're going to offer our prayers. After the second temple was destroyed, we turned sacrifice into tefillah, into prayer. So that's what we're going to do today instead of sacrifice, because I wouldn't be able to do that. So we're doing that now. And I want to tell you a story about the Temple Mount. One story that there's a lot of reasons in faith, in different faiths, why the Temple Mount is so important, why it has so much holiness. My favorite story is the story of the 2 brothers. 2 brothers before the time of the Tanakh, before the time of the Bible. They lived not far from one another, and both of them had families and they had farms. And one brother was less fortunate than the other. And the other brother, who was more fortunate, said, "You know what I'm going to do? Late in the evening, I'm going to sneak over to my brother and add vegetables and food to his barn without him knowing." And he would sneak over in the middle of the night and drop off the vegetables sneakily. And the brother, who didn't have as much financially, he also had less, he didn't have as big of a family. And he thought, you know what? My family isn't as big as my brother's. Even though I have less abundance, he has more children in his family. So I'm going to go and I'm going to bring some of my food and sneak it into my brother's house, into my brother's barn. And he would do the same thing. And this would happen every night for months. And one day, as the brothers were doing their nightly secret visit to one another, they came and they met each other. And they said, "What are you doing?" And they said, "I'm bringing you food because you need more abundance." And the other one said, "I'm bringing you food for abundance." And they hugged. And that place, the legend is that specific place is where the temple stood, the Temple Mount, where the mosque of the Dome of the Rock stands. So that's one story, ancient story, of one of the reasons why we hold this place so holy. In Jewish and Islamic and Christian culture and history, it's the place where Abraham went to sacrifice Isaac, Hal HaMoriah, which obviously has strong significance. It was our brit with Hashem, and it's where the temple stood many thousands of years ago. So for us, it's where we pray. And if you think about it, every day we stand up to pray, and we literally, in our mind's eye, we think of Jerusalem, we think of the old city, we think of the Temple Mount. So as we get closer, I want to take a moment. I want to pause, and we're going to get a little bit. We're gonna dip into a spiritual mikvah right next to the shawarma bar and Holy Bagel. Holy Bagel. Here, we'll do it here at Holy Bagel. We're gonna do a nigun, one last nigun, before we overlook the Temple Mount. And we started with my favorite nigun, and we're gonna end with that nigun. And I want you to take your soul, dip it into the melody like a bath, like a spiritual bath, before we ascend and look over the old city of the Temple Mount, and we'll deliver our prayers spiritually. I'll be your shaliach as a deliverer of prayer. So we're going to start with a nigun. Hi, nai, 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 nai. Hi, nai, 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 nai. Hi, nai, 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 nai. I nine 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 I nine 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 I nine 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 nine. We'll do that again. I nine 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 I nine nine I nine 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 I nine 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 nine. I nine 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 I nine 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 I nine 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 I nine 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 I nine 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 I nine 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 I nine 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 I nine 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 I nine 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 I nine 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 I nine 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 I nine 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 I nine 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 die 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 I nine 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 I nine 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 I nine 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 hey nine 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 get nine 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 get nine nine I nine 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 I nine 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 I nine 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 I nine 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 I nine 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 I nine 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 I nine 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 I nine 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 oh I nine 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 I nine 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 I nine 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 I nine 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 I nine 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 I nine 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 I nine 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 I nine 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 I nine 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 L'shana haba, l'shana haba, l'shana haba, B'Yerushalayim. Shana haba, l'shana haba, l'shana haba, B'Yerushalayim. L'shana haba, B'Yerushalayim abnuya, ba-da-ba-da. Shana haba, B'Yerushalayim abnuya. Hey, 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 ay, nine, 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 nine. I nine 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 nine, I nine 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 nine, I nine nine nine, I nine 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 nine, I nine nine nine, I nine 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 nine, I nine nine nine, I nine 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 nine, I nine 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 nine, I nine 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 nine. So I'm going to wish you all a good Shabbos. And I want you to deliver your tefillot. I'll give you, I'm going to turn the camera around. I'll give you about a minute or two to look, find inspiration, and send your tefillot. And here you go.
We hit rockets over here.
Shabbat shalom, everyone. And soon in Yerushalayim. I'll see you all later.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you so much.
Shabbat shalom.
I'm glad you stopped there.